My name is Marlies. I'm from the Netherlands and I live in Amsterdam. And the reason why I joined the group is that I wanted to comment on the problem of how did the Portuguese people actually be involved in the decision making. Because I think this is a key question in the European Union. If I look at it from the perspective from the Netherlands, I think we know very little of what is being discussed in Europe. I actually wouldn't be able to say who is actually representing the Netherlands in the European Union. And we have very little information about the reasoning behind certain things. And contrary to the national decisions, which are all the way everywhere on television, in the newspaper, everywhere. So why is that? I don't fully understand why we're not talking more about what's going on in Europe. But this is something that's key. I'm very impressed by the Swiss system, that they involve the people so much in all the decision making. We've tried in Holland some experiments using referenda. I don't think it's very successful because people need to comment and vote on things they have no clue about. And we need to trust that the people we voted to be in the parliament or to be in certain positions, that they actually do have the knowledge to make the right decisions on our behalf. Otherwise, I don't think it will work to, I mean, it would be great to have the Swiss system, but I think this requires a long history of being used to being very involved in decision making. And I think this is utopia in Europe. So I think we should be very much more transparent, have people know much more what's going on, and it also requires people who are representing us in the European decision making that they are much better at explaining why they do certain things, why are the austerity conditions like they were, and make sure that we have a very good way of voting for the right people. And the complexity of the picture of how Europe is now appointing the people, it already tells a story that there's something not right yet there.
So you would say, you said the example of Switzerland is for you something to go for, but you don't think it can work for the European Union, is that, did I understand it right?
Yes, because I think the Swiss came from a long history of doing like that, so it would be something we would have to learn to do.
But don't you think it's impossible for a combination of nations to learn this process of direct voting by the people? Do you think it's you think it's not feasible?
Yeah, from the experience we've developed now in the Netherlands, trying to do that with referenda, I think we actually are moving back. I'm not sure that's a good idea either, but okay, you try something and then you decide it's not working. And I also experienced, for me as a person, having to vote on things that I haven't had the time studying in depth. How do I know what's the right decision? I mean, it's like in a company you have a financial department and that everybody has to agree on the budget. But it's their job to define what's the best budget or how do we take care of the finances of the company. So I think the most important thing is to get good people in the right places, and then we need to be able to trust them to do their work. But that part is sometimes missing because we don't know what they're doing and who are the people.
Okay, and then we come back to the point that we even don't know who are the people who sit in Brussels and make decisions. Okay.
My name is Sorana. I come from Romania and I currently live in Austria and Denmark. So
Austria and Denmark.
Austria and Denmark, yes. So coming back a little bit to the discussion of transparency that Mark mentioned, I think it's important to also bring into the discussion the lack of institutions, European institutions that would harmonize such transparency issues and possibly try to build a common ground that all of these European countries could work on. So we're talking also like an institution for a common military or an institution, for example, for the media. Sebastian mentioned at some point that he would have liked to just be in the airport and just grab a European newspaper just to be more informed about other issues that are happening around Europe. So I think I I think I have a very lucky perspective that I got the chance to travel around Europe, and I have many Portuguese friends. And when it comes to the situation that we've seen so far, I got to be informed directly on the first hand of all of these informations. But it's sad that if I wouldn't get the chance to get a more transparent view from a certain institution that should be doing this on a European basis. And I think this is something that we're lacking right now, and would be a really good solution in that direction, at least.
So how do you create this transparency? What would be a suggestion?
One suggestion I think would be to have more of these institutions for different sectors, like for example for the media as well, as I mentioned for the military, and for there's a lack of institutions that would create a consistency between all the European countries, because also like there was mentioned previously, I think Pedro mentioned that there would be nice to have the possibility to, on a voluntary basis, to choose some aspects, but at the same time, the people that would be coming and giving these like for example the funds that were given, maybe some people are also outsiders and not understanding and seeing the situation with Portuguese eyes, because they didn't have this transparency.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually don't think we need more institutions. I think we have already so many institutions, and it's already costing so much, and it makes it even more unclear who's responsible for what. So I don't think we need more institutions. And what I was thinking with the media, it's very interesting that we don't have European newspapers, because it's any entrepreneur could actually start a European newspaper. Why don't we have one? Maybe because we're not really interested, or why is that? This is something I'm wondering about. And we do have internet. We could easily create something, a place where we could find all the news or stream all the political debates happening in Europe, whether it's Strasbourg or Brussels, because we still have this interesting situation of having all these places, which is out of date, I think, as well. But why don't we have that? So maybe, so where are people with their minds? Maybe they only are interested in the national news and they don't look, maybe. But I think we should look, because Europe is there and we need each other in Europe, and there's no way back in Europe, I believe, because all the challenges that we have, we need to collaborate and we need to organize ourselves for that. So we need to move forward. Maybe there's an entrepreneur in this room who can start a European newspaper.
Mark, that's an interesting challenge.
Well, I'm not so sure about the European newspaper, but I agree with Marlies that at this point I don't think adding new institutions is the solution for now. I think there might be room for new institutions in the future, but first we have to clear up the mess that we made before we create even more mess, I would say. And with that, I mean that if I look at my own country, I think there's a very big divide about what we should do with the European Union, and there is a very large feed to the skepticism about the European Union. And I think the complexity of how the Union is built up and how decisions are made, how the institutions are formed, and how information is communicated to the citizens within the Union, makes it very easy to feed this skepticism, because there's just so little knowledge about how things work. It seems sometimes to me that it's designed to be intransparent, to have decisions be made by people I don't know how decisions are made. It makes me skeptical as someone who is very pro-European. It makes me skeptical, because where should I start to make an impact? How do I know if things are decided in the right way? And to me, the first step would be to see, is it really necessary to have such a complex institution, and can there be, or set up, and can there be ways to simplify that so that normal people can understand it?